Live from World Dairy Expo, this is the Bovine. Your daily dose of dairy.
Welcome back to the Bovine Podcast, where we cut through dairy industry noise to get you the insights that actually matter for your operation.
And today, we're diving deep into a feature piece that's definitely been generating some serious buzz. Came out of World Dairy Expo. Mm-hmm. And this one's got layers. I mean, some surprises here are going to make you farmers really rethink how you've been approaching genetics, maybe cow longevity too.
Okay, let's definitely unpack this. We're really focusing on what our source called a fundamental power structure flip. Something observed right there on September 29th at World Dairy Expo.
Yeah.
And look, this isn't just about, who got the fanciest ribbon. The key takeaway is stunningly clear. Juniors aren't just competing anymore. They're dominating the open shows.
It's huge.
They're not just the future of dairy. They're the highly efficient, structurally sound present.
And why this matters right now, and for you listening, is absolutely critical. We are, let's be honest, standing knee-deep in a full-blown heifer replacement crisis.
No question.
The ability of your operation, doesn't matter if you have 50 cows or 5,000, to select and manage cattle built to last. Cattle that actually reach their fourth, maybe fifth lactation without falling apart.
Yeah.
That is the difference. Mm-hmm. It's the difference between, genuine profit and just a mountain of debt that's only getting steeper. We're talking potentially $100,000 swings here in long-term efficiency.
Exactly. And the controversy tease, you mentioned surprises. Well, here it is. The judge himself, Mark Rueth, actually called the open show unsuspenseful.
Oof.
Think about that word. A professional judge watching the best breeders in the world. And he says it's unsuspenseful.
Wow.
Now, this isn't like a slight on the professionals. It's just a stunning truth about the undeniable quality coming from the youth entries. We really need to unpack why that word unsuspenseful is maybe the most damning critique imaginable.
It really is.
And we need to talk about why managing obsolescence is maybe the harsh phrase getting attached to farms that still refer to these winners as, just kids.
Yeah. That's a direct punch to the gut, isn't it? For the veteran breeders, the ones who feel like they've perfected the art over generations.
Right.
It basically suggests they're running on yesterday's diesel while the juniors are already driving electric. It's a different game.
So let's jump straight into identifying this problem, this shift. First, maybe let's quickly define the playing field, because the context is everything here, right? In a show like World Dairy Expo, you've got the junior show. That's where the exhibitor has to be under a certain age. Fine. But the open show, that's where the real prestige is.
That's the big lease.
That's where any farm, any company, any seasoned pro brings their absolute best. Doesn't matter who's on the end of the halter.
That's the grand finale, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's where you put your reputation on the line. You're up against the multi-generational outfits, the big corporate breeding programs, everyone.
And that's exactly where Judge Rueth delivered his verdict. The outcome was, in his words, a little unsuspenseful. The source notes the juniors didn't just compete. They, quote, crushed seasoned professionals who've been perfecting genetics for generations. It wasn't even close.
Wait, hold on. I want to sit with that word unsuspenseful for just a second, because that's not just some casual comment, right?
No way.
If the show is unsuspenseful, it implies that the absolute top quality animals, the ones that were clearly going to win, they just stood out immediately, right from the start.
Yeah, you could see it.
The judge could probably see, even in the preliminary lineup, that the juniors' cattle just possessed this structural excellence that maybe some of the professionals' entries lacked.
Okay, but what specifically do you think he was seeing that lacked suspense? Was it just, flash? Pretty cows?
No, absolutely not. Just flash. Couldn't be. It had to be the functional traits. He was looking for the evidence of longevity. Things like udder attachments that look like they can easily handle 3-4 more lactations.
Built to last.
Exactly. Mobility scores suggesting they'll move trouble-free on concrete for years. And crucially, that width and capacity we'll definitely talk more about later.
Right.
In the past, the difference might have been subtle. A hair's breadth, maybe, in definition between the top animals.
Nuances.
Yeah, nuances.
Yeah.
Now, it sounds like the gulf in quality, particularly in those functional traits, is just visually apparent. The juniors brought a different type of cow. A cow really designed for the future, for profitability.
And we have a specific, undeniable example of this shift right here. Donnybrook Mo Stevie, owned by Brittany Taylor and Lila Schuler from New Glarus.
Yep, remember that one.
This cow didn't just win the junior show. She went on to take reserve grand champion in the open competition.
That's huge. Reserve grand in the open.
She beat professional operations with multi-million-dollar investments, decades of experience baked in. That is a massive, visible transfer of power.
Okay, but let's translate this. In plain English, for the farmer listening right now, how does a teenager's cow actually beat a professional's, a big operations best? It's not just luck, like you said earlier.
Definitely not luck.
It's got to be a difference in where the skill is allocated, right?
Yeah.
For the smaller farms listening, the implication is clear. High-cost genetics alone aren't the sole deciding factor anymore, because pretty much everyone can access the good semen now.
Right. The access is there.
So the youth, they're bringing superior management in the day-to-day care, sure, but maybe more importantly, superior selection skills. Skills really honed by understanding and using genomics. They're finding that diamond in the rough because they know what data markers to prioritize for long-term value.
And for the really large operations, the takeaway might be even harsher, actually. It suggests their internal breeding programs, the ones they've relied on for years, might be fundamentally outdated.
Ouch.
They might be stuck in a pattern. Prioritizing traits that win in the short term, maybe extreme component numbers or just sheer size, while kind of neglecting the structural integrity you absolutely need to stay profitable long term.
They're chasing the immediate win, maybe the show ring win, over the solid economic 5-year lifespan of that cow.
Exactly.
And you're right. If you're running a large operation and your multi-million-dollar breeding program is getting beaten for the reserve grand slot by 2 young women from New Glarus, well, you have to look hard in the mirror.
You really do.
You have to ask, am I managing my herd for the future, or am I basically just managing its obsolescence? Because the old way of doing things isn't just less effective now, it's actively costing you money, especially given the current cost of replacements.
That's the key.
That unsuspenseful outcome. It wasn't really about the excitement of the show. It was a signal that the veterans, some of them anyway, are falling behind the curve on what truly matters for profitability today.
Yeah, that structural piece, or maybe the lack of it, leads us right into our industry reality check. We absolutely have to challenge that old narrative, the everyone knows idea, that just having years of experience automatically means you get the best results.
It's tempting to rely on that, but yeah.
The source argues, and I think the evidence backs it up, that the genomic revolution has fundamentally democratized excellence in dairy cattle selection.
Okay, I admit, I still feel a strong pull toward the value of the experienced veteran eye, that intuition.
Yeah.
But I have to concede, the data, the results like we saw at Expo, they're forcing me, and probably a lot of others, to adjust our thinking.
How so? What was it like before?
Well, think back. Before genomics really took hold, if you wanted access to the very, very best sire lines, you pretty much had to be a huge operation with really deep pockets, right?
Right. Or geographically lucky.
Or be geographically close to one of the major breeding centers. Exactly. Genetics felt almost proprietary. They were expensive, and it took years to prove out a bull through his daughters. It was slow.
So slow. But now, the data itself is forcing us to recalibrate the entire industry scale. Let's talk about that big news, the upcoming 2025 genetic base change.
Ah, yes, the base change. Good point.
This isn't just some bureaucratic paperwork exercise. This change is needed precisely because such significant genetic progress has been made just in the last 5 years.
We're driven almost entirely by genomic selection.
Exactly. The pace is just incredible.
Okay, we should probably be really clear about what this base change actually means for the farmer listening, because it can be confusing.
Good idea.
Go ahead. So roughly every 5 years, the industry basically recalculates the genetic average of the entire cow population for key traits. And then they set that new average to 0.
Right. It's like resetting the baseline.
Exactly. It's done to make sure that the genetic predictions we rely on, the EPDs, the PTAs, remain relevant and accurate measures of how an animal compares to the current average cow.
So practically speaking, what you might see is, you log into your herd management software next year, and suddenly your favorite cow's PTA for milk or fat has dropped quite a bit.
Yeah, and you panic.
Right. But her actual genetics haven't changed one bit. It's just that the average cow she's being compared against, that new 0 baseline, is now genetically much, much better than the average cow from 5 years ago.
Genomics just accelerated that timeline dramatically. It made the old scale, the old measuring stick, obsolete really quickly.
And that is the democratization in action you were talking about, the very top genetics, the elite stuff. It's no longer locked away with just the elite bull studs or the massive breeding cooperatives.
Nope. Access to the best genetics, or at least the potential for them, is pretty much universal now. Artificial insemination, AI, has truly leveled the playing field. It allows even a small junior exhibitor, maybe working with just a few cows, to access semen from the same premier sire as the biggest, fanciest farm in the state.
Look at that premier sire example they mentioned from the heifer show. Spring Hill James Dean. The semen from a top sire like that is available to virtually anyone willing to buy it.
Pretty much.
So if everyone, or almost everyone, has access to those top genetics, what actually makes the difference then? What separates the grand champion from the animal placing mid-pack in the class?
Now that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It stops being primarily about just access to the genetics.
And it starts being entirely about management and, crucially, the ability to select the right animal to breed in the first place and then develop it properly.
Right.
Okay, but this is where I might push back just a little bit on the pure data argument. The data is accessible, yes, no doubt. But the application of that data, how it's used, that feels different.
How so?
Well, many veterans, and look, I'll probably include myself in this group, we learned eyes first. We learned to judge structure, frame, locomotion based purely on what we saw walking around the pen.
The visual assessment.
The visual assessment. Then, often kind of reluctantly, we started integrating the data, the PTA reports, the TPD printouts later on, often treating it more like a secondary tool, something to verify what our eyes already told us.
Okay, that's a really crucial distinction. Learning data second.
The juniors seem different. What makes them maybe genomic native is that they grew up with the data. They never knew a world where PTAs and EPDs weren't just a given part of the evaluation process.
It's integrated from day one for them.
Exactly. So they're looking at the structure, the frame, the feet and legs, but with an informed genomic expectation already built into their assessment. They aren't just looking for confirmation of what they see. They're looking for the synergy between the data and the physical animal.
Synergy. Good word.
They use the data to maybe narrow the field, identify the high potential animals, and then they use their eye to confirm that functional excellence, how well that genetic potential actually expresses itself physically in the real world.
Okay, that makes sense. And that's why the judge's specific praise for the winners really validates this combined approach. Judge Rueth praised the champions for traits like being milkier, possessing exceptional strength, and having balance.
Those aren't just random adjectives.
No, those are visual confirmations of genomic progress towards a cow that's not just productive, but structurally sound. A cow designed to produce efficiently for 5 lactations, not just flash brightly for 2 and then burn out.
Right. The genomics provided the underlying potential, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it was the youth's genomic native eye, combined with their obviously superior management, that really sealed the deal and made those animals stand out.
It's the blending, maybe, of the art and the science.
Yeah, but the science is increasingly dictating the potential outcome now. The art of the eye is almost playing catch-up, confirming what the rapid genetic progress is delivering.
And that blend, that synergy, connects directly to the farm bank account. Which brings us to maybe our third and arguably most critical point today, following the money.
Always got to follow the money.
We absolutely need to connect cow structure directly to profitability because cow longevity, keeping cows in the herd longer, has become arguably the single most important profit center in dairy right now. Why now? Specifically because of these soaring replacement costs.
This is the hard, cold reality that every single dairy farmer needs to internalize. Like yesterday. Let's talk real numbers here, not just theory. The USDA's numbers back in July pegged replacement heifers at $3,010 per head.
$3,000, just average.
That's the national average. And we saw other reports, like in Wisconsin, a huge dairy state. They saw a staggering 69% spike year over year. 69%, hitting $2,850 on average there.
Wow.
And springers, those cows just about ready to calve. We're hearing reports seeing numbers consistently hitting $4,000 in some of the high-demand markets. It's incredible.
So think about that. You are essentially taking out a $3,000, maybe $4,000 short-term, often unavoidable loan just to maintain your current herd size every single time you have to cull a cow early.
It's a huge cash drain.
If you're replacing, say, 35% of your herd annually, mostly due to structural failure, lameness, infertility issues, that replacement cost is eating into your marginal profit faster than almost anything else on the farm.
And that is precisely what makes the value of a longer-lived cow absolutely undeniable right now. Our source material highlights research showing that extending a cow's productive life by just one single lactation,
Just one more.
can reduce your overall replacement needs by about 25%. 25%. Think about what a 25% reduction in buying replacements means when those animals cost $3,000, maybe $4,000 each.
That is serious money saved. It drops right to the bottom line.
It's arguably the highest value return on investment you can make on the farm today. Honestly, it might be more valuable than chasing that extra 2% bump in feed efficiency, which often requires a massive capital investment in new mixers or technology.
Good point. Extending longevity is an immediate, verifiable cost saving. It directly helps mitigate the volatility we see in milk prices and feed costs.
But hang on, I have to maybe challenge this narrative just slightly. It's easy for us to sit here and say, oh, just breed for 5 lactations.
Right. Okay, fair enough. What's the challenge?
For the average small or maybe medium-sized farmer listening, actually achieving that 5th lactation isn't solely about genetics. It's also about management resources. Can they really afford the specialized nutrition needed for older cows? The constant observation, the preventative care required to keep a cow healthy and productive for 5+ lactations.
So the potential cost of keeping her.
Yeah. I mean, if a young, genetically superior cow is also somehow high maintenance, maybe prone to issues if not managed perfectly, the smaller operation might actually break even sooner financially by just replacing her early, rather than pouring limited resources into stretching her life another year or two. Does that make sense?
That's a fair counterpoint, absolutely. The resource constraint is real, but I think what the winning juniors at Expo are demonstrating is that the type of cow they are selecting actually minimizes that potential resource burden. They aren't selecting fragile, high-maintenance animals that require constant, intensive intervention just to survive. They're selecting robust, structurally sound animals from the get-go.
Okay.
Therefore, the investment in the right genetics, the genetics that ensure longevity through structural soundness, becomes a form of crucial risk mitigation. You're investing maybe $50 in the right kind of semen today to avoid a practically guaranteed $3,000 penalty in 36 months when the wrong kind of cow inevitably breaks down.
So the high-quality longevity genetics actually reduce the management overhead required later on because the cow is just physically built better to handle the stress.
Exactly. She's less likely to need that intensive intervention because her foundation is solid.
Okay. Let's try to do the math then, just to make this really tangible for everyone listening. Let's assume, like the numbers say, a replacement costs $3,000. And let's say an average cow produces 30,000 pounds of milk per lactation. Pretty standard.
Okay, standard numbers. So if that cow only lasts 2 lactations before she's called, maybe lameness, maybe utter breakdown, she produces a lifetime total of 60,000 pounds of milk.
Right, so that $3,000 replacement cost has to be amortized, spread out over just 60,000 pounds of milk, if you calculate that out. Less than 3,000 divided by 60,000, that comes out to 5 cents per pound of milk. $5, 5 pounds.
Or how we usually think about it, $5 per hundredweight.
$5 CWT.
$5 per hundredweight. That's the hidden replacement cost burden riding on every single gallon that short-lived cow produces. It's baked in.
Now contrast that. Take the cow selected by the junior exhibitor, the one bred specifically for structural excellence and longevity. Let's say she lasts the 5 lactations we're aiming for.
Okay, 5 lactations at 30,000 pounds each. That's 150,000 pounds of lifetime milk production.
Same $3,000 initial replacement cost, but now it's amortized over 150,000 pounds.
Right. So 3,000 divided by 150,000, that's 2 cents per pound of milk, 0.02 pounds.
Or $2 per hundredweight, $2 CWT. Wow. Okay, the difference is stark when you lay it out like that. It's $3 per hundredweight, $5 in W minus $2 in WT.
$3 per hundredweight. That difference is purely profit retention. Money kept in your pocket, simply gained through achieving longevity. That's how much the wrong kind of genetics, the ones leading to early culling, are actively costing you every single day.
That's a powerful number.
And this ties back directly to those specific structural traits the judge, Mark Rueth, was calling out. Remember the Guernsey champion he praised, Cadence Fame's Lovely?
Yeah, Cadence Farm.
He specifically focused on her width to the chest floor. Now, why is that specific, seemingly minor physical trait so absolutely crucial for offsetting that $3 single rate penalty we just calculated?
Because it's literally the foundation of the economic engine that is the dairy cow.
Yeah.
Width in the chest floor. It typically indicates greater internal capacity, more room for the heart and lungs to function efficiently.
Right, the powerhouse.
Exactly. That's essential for moving the massive volume of blood flow required to produce 100 plus pounds of milk per day without the system breaking down. It also correlates strongly with overall robustness, resistance to metabolic issues, things like ketosis, digestive problems.
Things that take cows out early.
Things that take cows out early.
Yeah.
A narrow-chested, sharply angled cow might look elegant, maybe even win some shows based on style points, but she often hits a metabolic wall. She just can't sustain high production and breaks down physically by the third lactation.
So she costs you that $5 an hour.
Precisely. The cows winning in Madison, the ones these juniors are clearly selecting for, they are the ones physically built to handle the physiological stress of the fourth and fifth lactation. They're the ones turning that potential $5 in tender rate replacement burden into a much more profitable $2 center rate success story.
So these winning animals, they're not just pretty show cattle standing there looking good. They are functionally excellent economic machines. They're designed specifically to defer that $3,000 debt penalty for as long as possible.
That's a great way to put it.
And the farms investing in these juniors, supporting them, they are absolutely, as the source said, not doing charity work. They're building their future. They're building it by managing proactively for longevity instead of reactively managing for early obsolescence.
Yeah, and that takes us right into looking at some specific case studies from the show, examples that really show exactly what kind of maybe integrated structure it takes to execute this new model successfully.
That Guernsey sweep you mentioned, Cadence Fame's Lovely from Cadence Farm, it provides the perfect blueprint, doesn't it, for this new kind of holistic approach.
It really does.
Achieving a clean sweep like that, Grand Champion, okay, fine. But also best bred and owned, also best udder, and the total performance winner. You just cannot fake that kind of success.
No way. That requires everything firing on all cylinders. The selection strategy has to be right, the breeding decision spot on, and the superior daily management, the feeding, the care. It all has to operate at a peak level to bring it together.
It confirms the genomic potential is there, but also that it was realized visually and functionally.
Think about what that clean sweep really signifies. To win best bred and owned means your internal genetics program is sound. You've selected the right animals, made the right matings on your own farm.
Right, homegrown success.
But to also take best udder and total performance. That speaks volumes about the daily care, the feeding program, the conditioning, the overall animal husbandry. It demonstrates a true 360-degree approach to dairy farming.
It means the junior exhibitor didn't just, go out and buy the best cow they could find. They created and managed the best cow. There's a huge difference.
Huge difference. And, while we saw some powerful genetics coming in from other regions, like that Jersey heifer winner, cash-in video stop and steri tea, coming all the way from California.
Yeah, Tulare Genetics taking the open and junior champion titles shows that geographic competition for the top stuff is still fierce.
Absolutely fierce. But importantly, the homegrown Midwest genetics didn't just roll over and play dead. You had the Miller's Joel King Majesty securing the Junior Champion Bred and Owned Award in that same Jersey show.
Good point. Staying competitive locally.
It demonstrates that the specific focus selection strategy, prioritizing those key functional traits, is what truly matters now. Maybe more than just relying on a famous regional pedigree or a big name.
So the common thread isn't the state name on the registration paper?
No. The common thread is the dedication to those specific structural traits we keep talking about. The udder cleft, the foot angle, the mobility, that crucial chest capacity, regardless of what state the cow happened to be bred in. The competition now seems based much more on achieving functional excellence, not just historical brand recognition.
Okay, and let's analyze that Ayrshire example the source mentioned. Bricker Farms are Cadillac ET from Bricker Farms.
Oh yeah, the Bricker family.
The source makes a really interesting point here. This wasn't just a win for one kid showing a great cow. This operation involves 3 generations working together.
That's right. Todd and Lindsay, the parents, working closely with their kids, Allison, Lacey, and Kinsley, plus they have partners involved too.
That feels like a really successful model, not just for showing, but maybe for industry succession overall. It's something maybe every farm should study closely.
I agree. It's a family and partner structure that's clearly leveraging multi-generational knowledge effectively. You've got the youth who are likely bringing that genomic native selection skill we talk about, that ability to interpret the data and apply the eye simultaneously, maybe more intuitively.
Right. The fresh perspective, the data comfort.
And then you have the veterans, the parents, maybe the partners, providing the essential infrastructure, the resources, the financial backing, but also that deep institutional knowledge about what actually works and what doesn't, under their specific farm conditions, their management style.
It sounds like the perfect synergy, doesn't it? The veterans provide the wisdom, maybe the guardrails, to avoid costly pitfalls based on years of experience.
Yeah, we tried that in 98 and it didn't work. Knowledge.
Exactly. And the youth bring the cutting-edge selection skills, the comfort with new technologies, the approaches that maybe the older generation might be a bit slower or more hesitant to adopt fully.
It means the whole operation isn't stuck in the mud repeating old patterns.
Yeah.
They're actively moving forward, making faster progress by using the combined knowledge and skills of the entire team. It's collaboration.
That partnership model is so key. And it brings us perfectly into thinking about the future implications of this whole trend we're seeing. We really need to shift our focus, maybe just for a bit, away from just the purple ribbons and the grand champion banners.
As exciting as those are.
As exciting as they are, and dive deeper into the judging contests. Because you could argue they are equally important, maybe even more important, than the show ring wins when we think about the long-term future health of the dairy industry.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That judging pavilion on Sunday at Expo, that's where the real future herd managers, the future genetic decision makers, were being actively trained and rigorously tested.
If the $3,000 replacement heifer is the problem we keep highlighting,
Then the kids competing in those collegiate judging contests, they are a huge part of the solution.
look at the sheer dominance demonstrated by the University of Minnesota in the intercollegiate contest. They three-peated. They won it for the third year in a row with a massive score of 2,505.
Incredible consistency.
And they weren't just guessing lucky. They demonstrated superior, measurable knowledge across the board. And importantly, their real strength was clearly in giving oral reasons. They took top honors there too, with 821 points just on reasons.
Okay, we probably need to explain quickly what giving oral reasons actually entails in a judging contest and why you'd call it a multi-million-dollar skill set. Because it's not just about talking pretty.
Not at all. Go for it.
It's intense, it's rapid, it's highly structured, and it requires defensible critical thinking under pressure. A student has maybe 15 minutes to look closely at a class of 4 animals they've never seen before. They have to rank them, first to fourth. Then, they have to stand up in front of an expert judge, often with spectators watching, and articulate, using very specific technical dairy terminology, exactly why they placed the class the way they did, why the first cow beats the second, why the second beats the third, and crucially, why the cow they placed last is inferior to the others.
And they have to connect it back to function, right?
That's the key. They have to connect their visual assessment directly to economic productivity and longevity traits. It's about justifying their decisions based on factors that impact a farm's bottom line.
So could you maybe give an example? Like, imagine a student giving a strong oral reason about a class of Holsteins. What might that sound like?
Okay, sure. A really good set of reasons might sound something like this. Sir, I place this class of aged Holsteins 1, 2, 3, 4. I grant the advantage in overall dairiness to my second place cow, but I placed 1 over 2, primarily due to her distinct advantage in structural integrity, particularly in her mammary system and feet and legs.
Getting specific.
The winning cow exhibits a higher, wider rear udder attachment and a stronger fore udder attachment, indicating greater longevity potential. Furthermore, she tracks straighter on her rear legs with less hock and more depth of heel, suggesting superior mobility and a lower risk of lameness compared to 2.
Okay, comparing directly.
Now, moving to my middle pair, I place 2 over 3, faulting 3 and placing her third due to her comparative lack of width throughout, particularly her narrower chest floor and lack of spring of rib. While 3 may be taller, 2 possesses the superior body capacity and functional width essential for sustaining high production over multiple lactations and minimizing metabolic risk.
Connecting with to function again.
Finally, while acknowledging the length of body in my third place cow, I placed her over 4, leaving 4 in fourth place due to her weaker loin, lower pins, and less desirable slope from hooks of pins, indicating structural weaknesses likely to shorten her productive life. Therefore, I placed this class of Holstein H cows 1, 2, 3, 4.
Wow. That is the language of a future farm manager who fundamentally understands risk mitigation, structural soundness, and economics, not just, I liked one better.
Exactly. When students can articulate why one cow beats another under that kind of pressure, justifying it with economically relevant traits, they're developing skills worth real money to any dairy operation.
These are literally the people who will be making those million-dollar genetic decisions on large farms in just 5 or 10 years. Because they're not just picking pretty animals, they're justifying the potential return on investment based on predictable longevity.
And look at the post-secondary example from SU on Cobleskill. They were even more dominant in their division. They swept absolutely everything.
Total sweep.
It just demonstrates that these students are already thinking like they own the farm. That high individual score, Connor McNeil getting 769 points, that isn't just a high number. It reflects a deep, applied understanding of dairy management, selection principles, and economics that is basically ready for immediate deployment on a commercial dairy tomorrow.
And the depth across the board, even below the top winners, is remarkable too. You mentioned the 4-H contest, where only 5 points separated the top teams, Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Just 5 points. It shows that these foundational skills, the ability to use the eye effectively and integrate the data, are being taught widely and effectively across the country in these youth programs.
These are the future herd managers, the future geneticists, the future nutritionists cutting their teeth right now in these competitions.
Absolutely.
And so here's the direct farm-level implication for you listening. If you aren't actively partnering with, supporting, or engaging with these youth programs, your local 4-H club, the FFA chapter, maybe sponsoring a collegiate judging team,
You are missing out. Big time.
you are losing out on connecting with your future labor pool, your future management talent. These young people who understand how to merge genomics and visual appraisal, they are arguably your most valuable potential resource moving forward. Far more valuable than any shiny new piece of equipment you might buy.
You're essentially investing in future brain power and skill sets that will prevent costly errors down the line. To still view supporting these programs as just optional charity work or a nice thing to do, honestly, in the current economic environment, that feels like borderline economic malpractice.
Agreed 100%. Which takes us nicely into our contrarian take for today. This challenges that popular, maybe comfortable industry narrative that high milk prices are the magic bullet that solves everything.
Yeah, everyone loves a high milk price, obviously.
Of course, everyone's focused on the margin right now at the milk check.
Yeah.
But the real underlying structural issue, as our source material pointed out, is the looming and actually already present shortage of cattle, specifically replacement heifers.
High milk prices are great, fantastic even. But if you physically don't have enough cows, especially enough good cows, to fill your barn and take advantage of those prices, you simply can't capitalize fully.
And the market data strongly supports this view. This isn't just speculation. CoBank research recently indicated that national heifer inventories could realistically decline by another 800,000 head.
800,000, that's a massive number.
Before we even start seeing any kind of meaningful recovery, which they don't project until maybe 2027 at the earliest, we are facing a multi-year supply squeeze on the actual cattle side of the equation, and that is going to fundamentally reshape the market dynamics.
And here's the kicker, the part the optimists maybe aren't talking enough about.
What's that?
That shortage, that decline in heifer numbers, it's happening at the exact same time that processing capacity is expanding, massively expanding.
Right, that $10 billion figure for new processing facilities coming online over the next few years, demanding more milk.
You got it. This combination, a shrinking national herd colliding with significantly expanding processing capacity, creates this monumental tension in the market. It's unavoidable.
Demand for milk is being set up to soar, driven by this new capacity.
But the fundamental capacity of the national herd to produce that milk will be constrained by the simple lack of replacement heifers entering the system.
Which means
Every farm is going to be fighting even harder for quality replacements just to maintain, let alone grow, their herds. And that intense competition is inevitably going to push that already high $3,000 average price for heifers even higher. It's basic supply and demand.
Okay, so therefore, the producers who can successfully navigate this coming shortage while maintaining or even increasing the quality of their herd.
Meaning, the producers who are actively breeding for longevity right now, the ones following the blueprint, the juniors are demonstrating with their focus on structural selection.
Those producers.
They are going to be in the driver's seat. They will practically be able to write their own ticket. They'll be the ones who can reliably supply the necessary volume of high-quality milk to these expanding processors without constantly crashing their farm budget, buying outrageously expensive replacements.
So the ability to reduce your herd's replacement rate from, say, a typical 35% down to maybe 25% or even lower, simply because your cows are lasting that crucial extra lactation or two.
That's not just good management anymore.
Yeah.
In this coming environment, it becomes a powerful strategic advantage. It literally insulates your farm from the worst effects of this predicted supply squeeze and the associated rising heifer costs. It's like building an economic moat around your operation.
So the core message coming out of World Dairy Expo then, when you connect the dots between the show ring, the judging contests, and the market economics, it's intensely economic and structural, isn't it?
Absolutely.
The industry desperately needs quality cows, cows that last, in order to fill all that new processing capacity coming online. And the juniors, by consistently prioritizing structural excellence, things like width of the chest floor, udder quality, sound feet and legs, they have inadvertently revealed the blueprint for the only kind of cow that really makes economic sense in the face of this coming supply squeeze.
It's a revolution, really, but it's one driven entirely by the simple, stark necessity of avoiding that crushing $3,000 plus replacement penalty.
And it's arguably the most profitable kind of revolution a farmer could ask for.
Couldn't agree more. Hashtag actionable insights segment.
All right. So the farmer listening just finished up morning milking. Maybe they're driving to the feed store right now thinking about all this. We've hit them with a deep dive on genomics, judging, longevity, market economics. Let's boil it down. What are the 3 most actionable things they absolutely need to take away from this discussion?
Okay, 3 things. First, immediate action. And I mean like this week when you're looking at sire proofs for your next breeding decisions. Reevaluate longevity traits.
Okay, specifically, how should they do that? What should they look for?
Stop, or at least significantly deprioritize, chasing those marginal short-term spikes in production traits alone. Immediately prioritize structural traits known to impact longevity. Look hard at mobility scores, udder composite traits, particularly udder depth and attachments, and yes, critically, that width to the chest floor or overall body capacity that Judge Rueth specifically called out.
Why the urgency?
Because longevity driven by structure is a higher immediate profit center right now than squeezing out a few marginal extra pounds of milk due to those replacement costs soaring past $3,000 per head. If your cow leaves the herd early because her structure failed, that tiny bit of extra milk she gave didn't matter one bit because you just triggered that massive $5 cert replacement cost burden we calculated.
Yeah.
Structural integrity is risk mitigation.
Got it. Prioritize structure as immediate risk mitigation. Okay, what about a medium-term strategy? Something for the next, say, 3 to 6 months.
Medium-term strategy. Invest actively in youth partnerships. And I mean truly invest, not just donate $50 at the fair auction. Stop viewing your support for 4-H or FFA or collegiate teams as just charity or some feel-good community obligation.
How should they view it instead?
Look at it strategically as investing in the single most valuable future labor and management pipeline available to the dairy industry right now. You need to actively look for meaningful ways to mentor, maybe partner with on a project effort, or even plan to hire these genomic native young people who intuitively understand how to blend data and structure simultaneously.
Because they bring skills.
They bring a skill set that can instantly start reducing your farm's costly breeding errors and improve your herd's longevity potential. It's an investment in future profitability.
Okay, investing in the future brain power of the farm makes sense. Finally, what's the long-term positioning? Thinking ahead for the next 1 to 2 years, especially with that supply squeeze looming.
Long-term positioning. Systematically reduce replacement dependency. Your primary strategic goal over the next couple of years must be to significantly reduce your herd's overall replacement rate, primarily by extending the productive life of the cows you already have.
How achievable is that?
Well, remember the research. Extending productive life by just 1 single lactation, on average, can cut your replacement needs by a whopping 25%. That needs to be the target. This is likely the only reliable strategy required to successfully navigate the predicted 800,000 head decline in national heifer inventory before we see any potential recovery around 2027.
So the less reliant you are on the external market.
Exactly. The fewer replacements you absolutely need to buy from the outside market, the more insulated your farm's finances will be from that volatile, almost certainly soaring heifer market price. It's about building resilience.
Okay, let me try to sum that up. The big message is, the youth are showing the entire industry that the truly economic cow of the future is structurally sound, built for longevity. And if you, the farmer listening, are not actively following that blueprint, meaning prioritizing structure and longevity right alongside production in your breeding and management decisions, you are effectively choosing to pay a $3,000 penalty or more every single time you're forced to call a cow earlier than you should have.
That's it in a nutshell. Couldn't have said it better. This has been another deep dive from the Bovine Podcast. If this kind of no BS analysis helps your operation stay ahead of the curve, make sure you head over to www.thebovine.com. We've got tons more articles there that tell you what's really happening in dairy.
And seriously, subscribe to the show wherever you get your audio deep dives. We're actually releasing new analysis like this twice weekly now, putting out more content. And trust me, you definitely don't want to miss what we've got coming up next week. We're going to dig into the true costs and some really unexpected regulatory hurdles facing that massive $10 billion wave of new processing capacity that's supposed to be coming online. It's definitely not as simple as just building a shiny new plant. We'll dissect the real roadblocks ahead. See you next time.